Well, hello there, and welcome back to another video. Let's talk about the UK box office results from last weekend. And here they are, the top 10 movies at the UK box office for the 18th to the 20th of May 2018. And as promised last week, this is packed full of some juicy news. I'm excited to talk about it. I hope you're excited to listen about it. We left last week's show on a question. Would Disney's sly marketing moves affect Deadpool 2's opening weekend? And so far the answer is actually pretty mixed. The sequel, which is rated a 15 in the UK, opened with just under £13 million, down slightly on the first movie, which I looked it up, and it opened at just over £14 million. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in the US, it opened with around $125 million, down from the first movie's $180 million. But it's hard to know whether this drop is because of the quality of the movie and the trailers, or because the market is currently so full of blockbusters, and the majority of them are Disney blockbusters. Or the other reason for this movie performing similar to the first Deadpool movie is it could have reached its maximum market. Arguably, I'd say Disney's dominance of the movie market is because they aim their films at both parents and kids and random adults that don't even like kids, let alone have them. Whereas movies like Deadpool, with its slightly older rating and its distinct type of humour, does have a finite amount of people in the world who will want to go and see the film. But what movie studios would love to know is what that finite number is. What is the maximum amount of people that will go and see this film? Because then they can work out the maximum amount of money they can make from a film, and therefore the maximum amount they should spend on a film. The first movie was a phenomenon at the box office and became the highest rating US R-rated movie, which is their equivalent of like 15, 18. And now with the second movie getting a similar response, it may show with that maximum lies. And studios looking to make these kind of movies in the future are going to be watching its figures over the next couple of weeks. And I'm actually thinking particularly of the sequel to the movie It, as it was similarly rated as a 15 and a massive hit at the box office. Warner Brothers has recently announced casting for the sequel, which sees the kids all grown up, and I think they should keep an eye on Deadpool 2 to see what kind of numbers their movie can expect. The math nerd inside of me wants to talk about models and stats for the next 5 minutes, but I will spare you and move on. Let's talk about Avengers Infinity War, which in its fourth week in the cinemas saw a drop of 64%. That means if 100 people went to see it last week, only 46 people went to see it this week. I look back at my coverage of this movie, and the week before it came out, we predicted that it was going to be a very front-heavy movie, so everyone was going to rush out and see it the moment it hit cinemas. And they did, and the film broke all sorts of opening weekend records, but over the next few weeks, the figures have been very quickly dropping. Which means I think it's as good a time as any to catch up on the all-time box office records that it potentially has broken, and let's start with the US. So this is the top 10 movies of all time at the US box office, and as you can see, Avengers has come in at number 8. Having just passed the $600 million mark in the past few days, I expect it might crawl up another few places, but that number 1 and number 2 spot are definitely out of reach. Then over to the more interesting worldwide all-time list, where Infinity War has shot up to number 4 with just over $1.8 billion. And pat on the back, everyone, that's exactly where we thought it would be. The only curveball, however, comes from China, where a delayed release meant it came out only 2 weeks ago, and it blew all estimates out of the way, and to date it has made $300 million over that. We've just seen that in the US it's made $600 million, and so that ginormous figure from China pushed it up the list faster than we expect. And because of that, The Force Awakens is still potentially in reach. It could just touch that $2 billion that we know everyone at Marvel and everyone at Disney really wants it to. But the figures around the world are quickly dropping, and there are so many blockbusters coming out in the next few weeks that I don't think it has the space to be able to live for a long time in the cinema. And perhaps the fears and warnings we spoke about a month ago about the franchise being too specialised and too connected have come true. But to try and get away from the Infinity War madness for a minute, I just want to talk about the movie that is at the top of that list and looks like it's not going to be pushed off the top of the list for a long time. Avatar, when it came out a number of years ago, made just under $2.8 billion at the box office. And if you didn't know, James Cameron and team have been frantically working on the sequels ever since. Avatar 2 and 3 are fully confirmed and have been filmed back to back, and then Avatar 4 and 5 are possibly going to happen, maybe probably. But even since before the first movie came out, they've been working on creating an Avatar cinematic universe. But it's interesting that in the time that they've taken to do it, we've had all these other cinematic universes rise to prominence. And so I wanted to ask you watching, hello, the question, do you care about Avatar? Are you excited for the sequels? Because I want to know whether all this time and money that they're spending on the sequels is being wasted. Can they really live up to the weird phenomenon prominent that was the first movie. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Now forget the rest of the world, let's come back to the UK and keep talking about the box office results from this last weekend. As the only new movie was Deadpool 2, everything else pretty much just got put down a place. The battle between Amy Schumer and Melissa McCarthy goes on, and I feel Pretty continues to win, getting double the box office of Life at the Party this week. But as I promised last week, I want to quickly talk about event cinema. As we mentioned, certain cinemas and companies are finding new ways to present movies to try and entice people away from streaming services and back in to the cinema. At number 10 this week, we have An American in Paris, the musical, a recording of the show from when it was in the West End. If you wanted last weekend, you could go to the cinemas and pay a fraction of the price to see the show. But at number 6 this week, and climbing up 2 places, is Secret Cinema presents Blade Runner: The Final Cut. Secret Cinema take films that you love and turn them into immersive movie experiences. And the latest movie that they've taken on is Blade Runner. I believe they used to do one-off events where you would pay a ticket and then get sent an address and turn up, and they would have just created this amazing space to be able to watch a movie in. Whereas they seem to have developed into creating an entire immersive world for fans of a movie to be in for a couple of hours before they even get to see the movie. And I find it fascinating that not only are they crafting this unique experience, but it is doing well enough to consistently rank in the top 10 across the UK, even though they've only got one screen. And for context, when we're talking about Deadpool 2 this week, it was showing on 636 screens, which makes the company Secret Cinema a more widely event cinema in general, something that movie fans like you and me should keep an eye on. If you've ever gone to an event like that, I'd love to hear what you thought about it. Do you think that is the future of cinema, or do you think that it's just a gimmick? Okay, let's talk about the movies that are coming out at UK cinemas this week, and there's only one that you really need to bother about, and that is Solo, a Star Wars story. This is the Han Solo origin story from Lucasfilm and Disney, which has been involved in a lot of controversy and drama throughout its production, as Kathleen Kennedy, the big producer behind the Star Wars universe at the moment, fired the 2 directors and got experienced director Ron Howard to come in last minute to fix the movie. She also broke the release schedule that Star Wars was going with, where they would release a movie every December. They released Force Awakens, and then Rogue One, and then The Last Jedi, and then they were supposed to release the Han Solo movie, but they pulled it forward to release in May. And that was a strange decision when they announced it, and having seen the movie yesterday, I still think that's a strange decision. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about any spoilers, but I thought the film was way too soon after The Last Jedi. I felt like I'd watched a Star Wars movie this year. Why am I getting another one? I know it was kind of fun. I had a good time. Because so many Star Wars movies have come out in the past few years, and the last one came out like 6 months ago, they're starting to feel like episodes of a TV series for me, not like ginormous cinematic masterpieces. And I can't wait to see and talk about its box office results next week, because I am cautious. I don't think it's going to do very well. As always, if you're heading to the cinema this week, drop me a comment to let me know what you're going to go and see. And that is where I'm going to leave the show for today. If you want to watch more of me, I'll leave another video around here, and all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.